Oh, it's nice this morning. The sun has just come up, as you can probably see on my face. In fact, there might be a shot here. It's a very exciting time of year for our grey seal population in the UK. It's both breeding season and mating season, which means that there's an absolute ton of photographic opportunities to be had. I'm currently in Norfolk, where I've been running a couple of weeks worth of workshops based around grey seal photography. But with all this time spent in Norfolk, I still hadn't made it to what I consider the mecca of grey seals in the UK, Horsey Gap. So that's where I am today, and I thought, why don't I bring you guys along and I'll talk you through some of the more creative shots that I've been trying over the last few weeks with the grey seals. And I hope that it becomes clear of the advantages that you can get in being creative with your photography when you consistently concentrate on photographing one subject over and over again. But first, let's go through some of the ethics involved in seal photography. So the ethics of seal photography can probably be boiled down into one phrase, and that is, don't be an idiot. But if you'd like some more specific rules, then the first one, especially around pupping season, is never ever get between a cow or the mum and its pup. It's a very sensitive time of year for these animals, so anything we can do to reduce stress on these seals is a must. If stressed too much, then seals can be known to completely abandon their young. And during the 3 weeks that they're feeding their pups, the cows do not eat whatsoever. So all of their energy resources are absolutely critical at this time of year. Make sure that you give the seals plenty of space. Use a long telephoto lens, and as a general rule, probably don't get closer than 15 to 20 meters. Obviously, this is depending on the location that you're at and how comfortable the animals are around you, but I would tend to stick to the 15 to 20 meter rule. And when moving around these animals, make sure to stay low and move slow. It's a lovely little rhyme for you, helps you remember. Seals can be very skittish if they're surprised, and almost counterintuitively, I've found when walking along the tops of these dunes, it can cause the seals to be more scared because all they suddenly see is a big figure suddenly appear on the horizon, and then sometimes they'll scarper off into the water, which especially at this time of year is not ideal. I would recommend making sure that the seal is aware of your presence from quite far away and then slowly making your approach. Stopping every 5 meters or so for 1 to 2 minutes, making sure that that animal is comfortable in your presence. Now, I know I said that it was pupping and mating season right now, but that was probably more so for a lovely pithy start to this video, whereas in fact, pupping and mating season happens at different times of the year depending on where you are in the UK. So for instance, down on the Cornish coast, it can start as early as August, up to Wales as early as September. If you go onto the Scottish coast, it can be as early as October. And then as you make your way down the east coast, it's November, which is when and where we are right now. But anyway, let me take you through some of the different styles of shots I've been going for the last few weeks. Unfortunately, I decided to visit Horsey Gap the day after a huge spring tide had come in, meaning that most of the seals had vacated the beaches and I wasn't able to get a lot of good footage to show you from that day. So as a compromise, I'm going to sprinkle in a little bit of footage that I've managed to get over the last few weeks, whilst talking you through some photos that will hopefully showcase the techniques that I've been using to get creative with seal photography. Typically, what I say to people that join me for workshops during the grey seal pupping season is to start off with your classic portrait shots and almost just get them out of your system. Now, there's not a huge amount of creativity here, but you'll be hard pressed to take a look at these photos and not have a smile on your face. I always have to pull myself away from doing portrait shots like this because you can easily get transfixed by these white fluffy pups. Sometimes you can get very lucky and have the pups come towards you, and in this scenario I would say get a few shots and then quickly retreat to try and minimise disturbance and make sure that the mum does not get stressed. Now, let's talk about some more creative shots. High key photos. Typically, you need a bright background and a light but cloudy day, as this will mean you get nice, soft, dispersed light. For most, if not all of these photos, I use the sea as a background here, and essentially just overexposed my image. It brings a lot of attention onto the seal itself and can create a pleasingly simple image. Low-key photography. Now, the essential part of this technique is to underexpose or to crush your blacks and shadows. This should bring the viewer's eye to the brightest part of the image and can create a lovely rim lighting effect if your subject has got fur or feathers for the sun to shine through. And I would suggest utilising this technique at sunrise or sunset so you have that soft but directional light. Although with the low winter light that we've got in the UK at the moment, this can be possible throughout most times of the day. Interacting with man-made surroundings. This can be a little bit Marmite for people, as I know a lot of wildlife photographers like to take photos that look as wild or as natural as they can be. But the reality is there's not many places left on this earth that are untouched by human activity. So what we're really doing is just photographing what's actually there, and I think it can make for some interesting photos. But I'm keen to hear your thoughts here. Are you happy to include man-made items in your photos, or are you someone that just wants natural looking photos at all times? Do let me know in the comments. Interacting with natural surroundings. So for this, I've included using other wildlife to give a sense of scale, or driftwood that's come in from the sea, or using the water to give some context to the location, or simply using rocks to turn a classic portrait shot into something more interesting that hopefully leaves the viewer needing to fill in the blanks. Interacting with other seals. This time of year is probably the best time for this, as you've got fighting bulls, cows fending off bulls, scrapping cows, and then we also have the opportunity to showcase some more intimate moments like suckling pups, or the mum and the pup touching noses. And if you're really lucky, you may even get two pups playing together. There are so many options here, and whilst at first glance it might not seem like seals do very much, if you stay patient, you'll be able to witness and photograph tons of different behaviours. Slow shutter speed photography. There are two things that make seals perfect subjects for slow shutter speeds. Number one is a lot of the time, seals do not move very much. And number two, they're very often in front of crashing waves. Here, I was just trying to utilise the movement in the water to try and add some drama to what is an otherwise fairly basic scene, and I'm very pleased with the results. And last but not least, black and white photography. I've found seals a particularly good subject for black and white edits. The pups, of course, are mostly white with some black details, and unless you have a golden sunrise or sunset, it can be a great option to remove any unwanted vibrant colours that distract from the seal as a subject. But we also have molting seals and weaned pups that have very interesting fur patterns. So changing to black and white allows you to work on bringing those to the forefront by working with the tones as opposed to tweaking each colour. So there you have it. I hope that I've brought across the benefit in working with one species, because it really pushes you to try and get creative with your photos and ultimately learn and embrace different photography techniques. Let me know if there are any creative techniques that you think I've forgotten about, or if you've managed to use any of the techniques that I've mentioned in this video with your own photography. If you have enjoyed the video, then please consider a like and a comment, and if you haven't already done so, then a subscription would be lovely and really help me out. But for now, I'm going to say thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers!